Welcome to Tales of Horror, your sanctuary for a night filled with spine-tingling tales and the perfect ambience to lull you into a peaceful slumber. And tonight, I'm here to guide you through the shadows, helping you drift away as the whispers of the night embrace you. As the moon casts its silvery glow and the world outside quiets down, let the stories we share become the gentle lullabies that ease your mind. Each tale is crafted to stir your imagination, yet soothe your spirit, striking that delicate balance between curiosity and comfort. Imagine yourself nestled in a cozy corner, the soft flicker of candlelight dancing on the walls, shadows playing their silent games. The night air carries a chill, but within these moments you're safe, protected by the soothing rhythm of my voice and the calming presence of our shared journey into the unknown. Tonight, we'll explore forgotten corridors, haunted by echoes of the past, yet each step we take together brings you closer to tranquility. Let the subtle suspense relax your senses, transforming any lingering fears into a serene embrace. Here, in the realm of tales of horror, every story is a pathway to relaxation, every whisper a step towards peaceful dreams. Breathe deeply, inhaling the crisp night air, and exhale any tension that weighs you down. Allow the gentle narrative to wash over you, each word a soothing wave guiding you deeper into relaxation. The tales may be dark, but their purpose is to calm your mind, providing a unique blend of intrigue and comfort. They say the ocean's depths guard their secrets well. Down here, in the silent heart of the Atlantic, time does not pass as we understand it. Light is scarce and filtered through countless layers of shifting water, the pressure immense and the silence nearly absolute, except for the faint groan of metal, the distant rattle of debris. It is here, far below the sunlight and the storms, that the Titanic rests. Not the romanticized image of the great ship departing Southampton, not the blurred photographs of its final hours, but its hulking, skeletal carcass, a colossal grave sprawled across the seabed. I have come to bear witness, to see with my own eyes what remains, and to feel the immensity of its presence. As I descend through darkening water, the temperature drops steadily. Beyond the reach of the sun's warmth, past schools of curious fish and drifting strands of kelp, I reach a zone where my lights cut only feeble cones through a liquid night. I'm inside a specially designed submersible, its hull creaking gently under the intense pressure. The voice of mission control is long behind me, replaced by a hum of machinery and my own breathing. Ahead, as I sink deeper, I detect shapes emerging from the gloom. At first, it's just the subtle rise of the ocean floor, dune-like accumulations of sand and silt. But soon, the beams of my searchlights find something else, a vast silhouette, larger than any natural formation. The Titanic. I hover, engine barely murmuring, and study the broken colossus laid before me. The famous bow, half buried in sediment, angles downward as if still straining forward in a final, futile attempt to surface. Metal plating is corroded and flaked, revealing internal frames and crossbeams. The decks have collapsed in on themselves like a broken spine. Twisted rails and collapsed cabins form a tapestry of ruin. Where once grand ballrooms were filled with laughter and music, now only silence reigns. It's as if I've stepped into a cathedral built of iron and despair, a rusted monument sunk in eternal dusk. Gently, my submersible's lights skim across fragmented sections of hull. Torn metal edges resemble jagged teeth in a giant's maw. I see fragments of windows and portholes, empty sockets staring back at me. The sediment swirls with every subtle current, drifting over broken lanterns, tarnished silverware, and shattered furniture. The grandeur of the ship's original form is hinted at only by scraps: a gilded doorknob flecked with rust, a piece of patterned carpet half buried under algae, a chandelier's frame encrusted with barnacles. Every detail whispers of a past, of human hands that once polished these surfaces, of voices that once rang out in conversation and laughter. But now, those voices have all faded. Have they? A strange tension fills the water around me, as though something watches from just beyond the reach of my lights. It must be my imagination, the isolation playing tricks on me. I remind myself I am alone here, alone with the ship. Yet, I feel as if I've disturbed something's slumber. As I edge closer, maneuvering over the broken decks and past tangled cables, I catch fleeting shapes at the periphery of my vision. Shifts in the darkness that do not correspond to drifting fish or the sway of seaweed. I stabilize the submersible near what would have once been a grand promenade deck. My external lights reveal peeling paint, metal beams shaped into horrifying silhouettes by the corrosion of a century. Bits of torn upholstery wave gently, and slender fish scatter as I approach. The ocean's quiet majesty is absolute, and yet I feel a presence behind that majesty. Something indescribable lurking within the wreck's hollow corridors. It's as if the ship itself were alive in some way, breathing water through its compartments. Every so often, the structure moans softly, metal lamenting in a voice too deep for human ears. Cautiously, I guide my submersible toward an opening in the hull. What was once a corridor leading to first-class cabins is now a cavern of rust and darkness. My lights reveal a corridor strewn with debris. The frame of a bed, a broken chair, and what might have been a cabinet door jammed in the sill. I notice something unusual, patterns in the algae that seem almost deliberate, as if painted by someone's careful hand. The currents swirl, and a faint cloud of sediment drifts across my view, momentarily obscuring the hallway. When it clears, I swear I see movement. Not a fish, something else, something elongated and pale. As I push deeper, I see more of these unsettling shapes. They cling to the wreck's edges, lurking behind collapsed beams, peering from broken portholes. Thin, elongated limbs with webbed fingers rest lightly on rusted surfaces. Skin so pale it's almost luminous catches the faint bioluminescence of unseen marine life. Are these creatures human? No, they are too gaunt, too unnatural. Their bodies seem adapted to this watery realm. Long, spindly arms, legs that bend in unsettling ways, and faces. I can't quite make out their faces. Whenever I try, the silt drifts or my lights flicker, leaving me guessing. These silent watchers blend seamlessly with the wreck's silhouette. Sometimes I see one crouched in a distant doorway, head angled as if curious. Another moment, I glimpse a cluster of them drifting near a gaping tear in the hull, their limbs trailing behind like ribbons in the current. They do not approach, but their presence weighs heavily on me. Something about their stillness is more terrifying than if they swam directly at me. Their domain is this silent underworld, and I am a trespasser. The Titanic is not just a shipwreck, it's their cathedral, their home, and I am uninvited. I shine my light across a pile of broken furnishings and I see something metallic glinting in the gloom. A twisted piece of a door hinge, or perhaps a length of chain. I inch closer, and in that moment, a shape moves behind it. One of the ghoul-like figures, slinking deeper into the shadows. My heart stutters. The creature's movement is fluid and slow, as if water is not an obstacle but its natural element. It moves without sound, disturbing no silt, leaving no trail. The thought that these beings might have been here for decades, centuries even, unsettles me. Are they the spirits of those lost, twisted by the deep into something else, or entirely alien, attracted to this monument of human tragedy? As I drift along the hull's exterior once more, I realize the full extent of the ship's decay. The Titanic's enormous structure lies scattered like a dismantled colossus. The bow and stern separated on that tragic night, now resting far apart under dim and silent waters. Collapsed decks form a graveyard of memory. From a distance, the outlines of broken masts, fallen funnels, and torn sections of hull stand like the remains of an ancient city consumed by the sea. Encircling this mass are the silent watchers, no longer merely shapes on the periphery. I catch clearer glimpses as I dare to approach the stern section. The stern is more distorted, twisted by the sinking and decades of decay. Here, thick tangles of metal and cable create a forest of rusted thorns. Within this labyrinth, the pale figures drift. I see a splayed hand resting on a beam, long, thin fingers splayed over greenish metal. The face that leans out. Oh, that face. Eyes that do not reflect my lights but absorb them, leaving hollow darkness. A jaw that tapers down, almost too narrow, and lips that seem to tremble soundlessly, as if trying to speak but producing no words. I feel a chill, not physical, for my cabin is temperature controlled, but a psychological chill that grips my spine. The silence is so profound that my own breath and heartbeat feel thunderous. Every time I focus on a creature, it remains still, passive, yet watchful. When I look away, I imagine them creeping closer. They do not attack, they do not flee, they simply exist. And that might be the greatest horror, to find that one is not alone in the deep, yet not in the company of anything friendly, human, or understandable. I take my submersible deeper into what was once a cargo hold, shining my beam through jagged openings. Broken crates and twisted metal form quiet grottos. This place was never meant to be seen by light again, yet here I am, illuminating secrets best left in darkness. A swirl of bioluminescent particles drifts by, tiny flecks of greenish glow that momentarily reveal a cluster of pale figures hovering near a far corner. They float in a slow, rhythmic pattern. Are they dancing in silence, performing some unknown ritual within these ruins? As time passes, I try to maintain my composure. The horror here isn't a sudden attack or a monstrous roar. It's the weight of centuries pressing down on what was once known and cherished. The Titanic is not just a shipwreck. It's a cemetery of stories, and I've stumbled into a vigil of beings who regard this grave as their own sacred ground. The skeleton of steel and barnacle-covered debris around me forms the body of a fallen titan. In its decayed heart, these creatures keep watch, indifferent to my presence, yet fully aware of it. I scan the perimeter, trying to understand the full scale. The wreck is massive, a sprawling ruin spread across the ocean floor. Above me, schools of fish glitter momentarily in my lights, then vanish. The seabed around the wreck is uneven, mounded with silt and debris fields. I imagine personal artifacts scattered beyond my range of vision. Shoes, dishes, trinkets swallowed by time. And amongst it all, these pale, elongated beings weaving in and out of the ship's skeletal remains, as if tending to a secret garden. I find myself wondering if they are guardians. The Titanic has lain here for more than 100 years. Many expeditions have come and gone, recording footage, retrieving artifacts. Yet, how many have dared to linger as long as I have, to peer so deeply into its hidden chambers? The longer I stay, the more I sense a pushback, a quiet urging to leave. Not by force, but by the suffocating weight of their gaze and the oppressive hush of their world. It's as though I've walked into a grand silent hall during a private ceremony, and the occupants tolerate my presence only out of some obscure patience. I recall stories from old mariners who spoke of strange creatures in the deep, of spectral shapes glimpsed at the edge of their submarine lights. But nothing could have prepared me for this. The Titanic, a name that conjures images of human arrogance and heartbreak, is now a domain inhabited by beings beyond my understanding. They do not fit any known classification, nor do they seem interested in making contact. They watch with hollow eyes, sway gently, and remain as still as statues until I move my light, at which point they shift silently to keep their distance. My sub's instruments show me the slow passing of time. I have lingered here, transfixed, far longer than intended. The horror here is subtle, creeping, and total. There are no shrieks, no attacks, just the oppressive realization that this place belongs to a different epoch now. I remember the grandeur of the ship's design and purpose, to carry human dreams across the Atlantic. Now, it's a rusted carcass providing shelter and stage to these impossible denizens of the deep. I guide my submersible along the wreck's perimeter one last time, taking in the fractured hull and the drifting debris. The silence amplifies my thoughts, each one echoing in the vacuum of my mind. I shine my light along a set of fallen beams and see one of them perched atop a twisted railing, its body so thin, limbs so unnaturally long. It does not leap at me or vanish instantly. It just remains, a quiet sentinel, reminding me that it is watching, that it has always been watching. I turn my attention elsewhere, trying to find comfort in the familiar shape of machinery. Old boilers, rusted engines. Even these are unnerving, contorted into new forms by time and pressure. In the grand scheme of things, humans are newcomers to these depths. The Titanic was meant to conquer the ocean's surface, not to become a relic beneath it. Yet here it lies, conquered by time and nature, and in its death, it has become host to a new form of life, or perhaps unlife, feeding on darkness and silence. I imagine that centuries from now, when nothing remains but a vague outline in the silt,